5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another Chat and Learn here with Power to Fly. My name is Mariella Marie, and as always, super excited to roll into this next hour with you all. Our guest speaker is calling from Moscow. It's 8 p.m. over there, so I'm really grateful that she's taking the time to end her day by dropping knowledge with us today and sharing her journey and letting us know just how we can, support her initiatives and just be more transparent, more authentic, and share space together and be more inclusive together. So the hour's going to fly by super quickly. You all are going to see. So, with that said, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping rules so that we all feel comfortable and confident in this next hour. We would love for you all to participate. As I like to start these chats by saying lots of crazy things going on in the world. You could be doing anything else right now with your time, but you're deciding to spend this hour with us. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that. We would love for you to participate since you're here with us. So feel free to turn your cameras on if you feel called to do so. We have today, and I would love to see you all participate as well in that respect if you feel called to do so. If not, no worries. Please feel free to write in the chat box or hop off of mute whenever you have something you want to share. I've muted everyone upon entrance just to avoid any background noise, but I can't stress enough. We would love to hear from you. So hop off mute whenever you want to share, some tips and tricks that you find helpful, some stories that you want to share as well in this hour, or anything else. We would just love to hear from you in this next hour. If you do hop off of mute, you will be featured in our live recording as this is being recorded. So with that in mind, just want to let everyone know that you will be getting a rewatch email if you're joining us live with links to any resources that our guest speaker is mentioning throughout the chat, and also for you to be able to rewatch this video later and share it with your colleagues, your friends, and your community at a later date. The last thing I'll say is we would love for you to follow us on socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention, if anyone has any sensitive information and you prefer to be held anonymous, you can find me in the chat box privately. Write me under, well, you can find me under Mariella Marie, and you can write to me privately. I will then raise your question or your reflection to our guest speaker and keep you anonymous. With that said, if this is your first time joining a chat where I've moderated, I just want to take a couple seconds to introduce myself. I'm so happy to be able to, sit here for hours and pick the minds of brilliant, beautiful folks like our guest speaker, who I'm going to introduce in just a few moments. But I love speaking about the importance of emotional intelligence in the workplace, and especially, we say here at Power to Fly, we can't talk about the professional without talking about the personal. So, how we can practice emotional intelligence at home, at work, and at play. So I might bring some of our conversation there just because I like to philosophize about emotional intelligence. And I would love to invite you all to support the project that I'm working on that is called the Positive Force Team. You can go to thepositiveforceteam.org, sign up for our newsletter, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to chat there with you all. All right, without further ado, I'm gonna introduce our guest speaker. I'm actually gonna pass the mic to her so she can introduce herself. But Oksana, let us know a little bit about yourself, how you came to learn about Power to Fly, and what you're excited to share with us today.
Well, hello. And it's a great honor for me to be here. Thanks to all the staff of Power to Fly for inviting me. And you asked me how I learned about Power to Fly. Frankly, I don't remember because it was the kind of by chance, but I believe that nothing happens by chance. And it will lead to something at the end. So, because there was a person who wrote me by chance to suggest a training to the organization that I'm working for. And then we started to talk, and she was surprised by my story, my career path. And then she said, okay, you could share your story and your thoughts with people because I would love to be the international person, to be the citizen of the world, not to be just a part of one country, because I love different international contacts. And so that is why I'm here. Mariella, you could interrupt me anytime, and sometimes just to let me know that I am not alone, that you are still connected.
Yes, yes, I am still connected.
Well, actually, the weather is nice outside today. We had a rain shower during the day, and I was looking at the window from my home office, and I was saying, oh, what a beautiful weather. I would like to go out and walk around, but I need to work. So, just a couple of words about myself, about my bio. Actually, I was born and I was raised in Moscow. And actually, I've graduated from the School for the Blind, from the Special School for the Blind. We had a great education. We had lots of courses, and physical training was with us, and music and drawing, and many, many more, as much as sighted people could do. And when I was 17, I went to the United States for 9 months course. I was studying English language. I was studying orientation and mobility. So I was learning how to use the white cane. And this is a very helpful skill for me now. And also I was studying computer lab. Then in 9 months, so actually there were people from 19 countries. And after that, I graduated from school because I was in the United States interrupting my education in my regular school. And then I was thinking, okay, what I should do next. I didn't enter the university because of different circumstances, such as it was a hard time in Russia. There was the kind, we didn't know where we are going to go because the Soviet Union just broke down. But Russia wasn't the country that it is now at that time. So, anyway, it was the kind of breaking period. And I decided to earn money to study somewhere very fast and then to earn money. And I studied as a massage therapist. And then I was working for, in that field for 6.5 years. And then I got pregnant happily. Then my child was born. And actually, then I was with him. I spent a lot of time with him. And then I changed my life completely. I started to work as a writer for different websites. After that, I was working as a writer for 3 years, and then I went to a public center for blind people that was founded and created in Moscow. And first, I was a staff of training center. I was writing materials. I was helping with different guidelines for the call center that was functioning. And then I was the head of PR department at that center because I was responsible for the website and for training materials as well, materials as well. And then, this call center unfortunately was closed because the government stopped giving subsidies, giving money for that, supporting financially. And then I was looking for a job. It was a journey. First I started to work for two jobs simultaneously. I was keeping two jobs simultaneously, such as a writer for a recreation agency. And then I was, at the same time, I was working as a manager for medical organization. It wasn't a clinic, but we were collaborating with clinics. But it didn't work well. And then I started to work for a taxi company as the quality control service operator. And then unfortunately, the software started to be inaccessible. And I was without a job for 9 months. It was a really, really hard time. I was looking for a job and I had a really big challenge to find a job. And then I got a suggestion, I got a proposal to work as a employment program specialist for Russian Disability People Organization. And I was working there for a specialist first, and then I started to work as working employment coordinator. And mostly I was working with businesses, with business companies, many things. I think I won't describe in details what I was doing. Actually, I was the kind of the HR, the presenter, strategic manager, so to help them with with D&I strategy a little bit, how to create it. And then I was presenting a lot, either in Russian and in English. I was presenting at international conference in Vienna in 2017. And then I participated in a project for independent professionals in in disability, in the field of disability. And I was on that project for 2 weeks. I traveled to the United States. I went to San Francisco, hi California, and I
Yeah.
went to Boston. And it was a hard time because we had lots of tasks. We were exchanging experience with American colleagues, and then we had to do different reports, different, to bring back different pictures, and then to fill out the questionnaire containing 19 questions. But it was really interesting. Then I started to change a bit the field of my influence. And actually, I was working for one Russian bank as the accessibility specialist. I was helping them to adapt ATMs and website. And we didn't have time to do the mobile app because then they said, okay, we don't need your, actually, we don't need you anymore. But now the situation is different. Now I'm working for the second largest bank in Russia. It's called VTB Bank, as the expert, non-visual accessibility expert. I'm working together with my team. There are two more great guys working with me, and I'm learning from them constantly. We are testing, analyzing, we are adapting products for blind people. We are adapting ATMs, mobile app, and online banking service. And I'm working for my DPO in parallel, simultaneously. So I'm holding two jobs right now, but I'm going to leave the DPO. I'm going to tell about that tomorrow to my immediate manager. And if we're not talking about jobs, actually, life is not only work, life is much, much more. I love traveling. I love hiking. I try to do that every single day. And I love singing very much. I love music. I'm really fond of music. And I love sports, although I am not actually, I'm not involved in, in any sports activities, but I love watching basketball, soccer, hockey sometimes, and, some more. And also, I am a cat person. That's about it.
I love that. I'm also a cat person, and I love music as well. I love hiking. I live in Patagonia. It's one of the reasons I moved down here. So I feel like we are vibing on so many levels already. And wow, Oksana, thank you so much for sharing your journey so far. I know you can dive in deeper as well. And I would actually love for you to dive in deeper as we go through the questions that folks have submitted before this chat. So before we go to those questions, though, I would love for you to cover some of the principal themes for today's conversation. And then after you cover those principal themes, I will then start asking you the questions that folks have submitted previous to the chat.
Well, actually, the main topic that we are going to talk about is the inclusion at the workforce for people with vision loss, or for people with disabilities in general. Because when I read the list of questions, I realized that they are very wide, and I hope we'll be done with all of them. I'll try to be as short and concrete as I can. But still, there are so many, and this is a really complex problem. And there are some success, either in the United States and in Russia, and in Europe as well. But I can only speak for America and Russia because I'm familiar with that. And I'll try to bring as many examples in my answers as I can. So I think this is about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So we are now going to start to go through the questions that folks have submitted previous to the chat. For those of you who are joining us now live, if you hear your question come up, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to hop off of mute or write in the chat box so that we know that you're here. And then so Oksana can then maybe dive in deeper if you need her to. If this is not your question and you still, want to hop off mute or write in the chat box, we would love to hear from you. So you're going to hear me say this throughout the chat because I want to make sure that you all are are feeling encouraged to participate. So this first question reads, your story is inspiring. Could you please share how you landed your first job and how you managed to navigate the present difficulties?
Thanks for the question. Actually, my first job was a massage therapist, and I was the entrepreneur at that time. I didn't work for anyone, so I started my job as the entrepreneur. I had a room where I could bring a massage table. Actually, it was there because it was a place at the hospital, at the clinic, I would say, not at the hospital, at the clinic, where the massage therapist worked in the morning, and I occupied this room during the daytime. And my biggest difficulty was I was really nervous at first days because one thing, if you are practicing massaging your colleagues, your friends, your classmates, or whatever. But it is absolutely different if you are, if live people came to you, real people came to you, and they ask for help and they give their medical diagnosis, and I need to do everything. I need to communicate. I need to bring them turn to me and not to be scared and to believe me, to trust me, I should say. It worked out fine, but I remember how my knees were shaking during the first massage for the first patient. And the second challenge was actually to bring clients, to increase the amount of clients, because I started my job in a township that was located about like 120 miles away from Moscow. It was a small town, and actually it was 90s. It was in 90s, so it was hard. It was much more harder than now. Actually, now there are much more possibilities. There is Instagram, there is Facebook, and other social networks and other possibilities. And then I had some flyers, and it was later. And actually, I had some big advertising hanging on doors of shops or clinics saying, oh, this is a massage therapist that studied at Medical Science Academy. And this is true. It's not false. And these were my travel, my challenges, because my salary, I couldn't imagine, I couldn't predict what my salary could be. So it was the main challenge.
Yeah, we speak about salary negotiation, or how, I should say, how to negotiate your salary often here at Power to Fly, because we find that, especially when you're starting out in a career or you're career pivoting, it's that information isn't so handy. I mean, yeah, there are websites that try to keep things transparent, but one of the things that comes up in our conversations when women want to share, their tips on how to negotiate your salary, they talk about building their network, and kind of like throwing the net out there to see what folks are, currently being paid, and they also find that mentorship is important, so that they can get live feedback from folks who are already in the field if they have that opportunity. So I'm sure that that was one of the biggest challenges as well for you starting off. As I mean, I'm sure everyone on this call can chime in there, that it's just so hard to figure out, okay, what should I decide that I want to be paid, and how do I go about asking for that and bringing in more clientele. So thank you so much for sharing the challenges that you witnessed during your first job there. We have a live question here. Someone has written me privately. What are the greatest barriers that organizations can remove for recruiting and retaining employees with low vision? For example, barriers beyond ADA compliance.
Actually, I was thinking about that because some of the questions are related to that. I would say most questions could be related to that in this or that way. The most important thing is digital accessibility. Because, for instance, if the website or the software is not accessible, so this is it. First, companies should think if their site or their documentary, their software is accessible. I will give you a million of examples how it shouldn't work. For instance, now I'm working at VTB. First, we have some meetings that come like weekly meetings when we discuss different things with a web platform, with mobile platform. And first, they suggested WebEx for using, and WebEx is completely inaccessible. Absolutely and completely inaccessible. Furthermore, I will tell you the truth. I got feedback from two of my colleagues yesterday and today, by the way. They had to use WebEx because companies insisted to that, and they don't have disability. They said this is the worst ever software to use. But we told the immediate manager that unfortunately WebEx is not accessible. Okay, and our managers could go two ways. The first way is it's not accessible. Okay, they cannot manage. Oh, we should think of something. We should bring them like away sooner or later because they can't uh, compliance to our policy, etc., etc. But they decided to jump out to Zoom. This was it, no problem. But there was another problem with Zoom, that Zoom, like free version of Zoom, could have only 100 people, and this is it. And then they actually decided, okay, if we have some demo days. What is demo day? We come and one of our team representatives tells about what we've done during last 2 weeks, etc., etc. And they decided, I mean, not we, but managers decided that this part could be pre-recorded. Since lots of people want to join WebEx, it could be much more than 100 people. So pre-recording worked perfectly. So this is the example. And another example I could give you, I was talking to a person who works for PepsiCo, their HR for Russia and CIS. And she actually told me that, okay, she asked me the question, and what about the website? If the website is accessible, our website is accessible or not accessible? I said, I never evaluated any company's website. So they are thinking ahead. They are thinking if they are, if they can evaluate their possibilities and they could do something before they even potentially hire people with disabilities. So this is a good approach. This is one of the barriers. I think this is the biggest barriers. And for instance, if there are lots of paper documents, we won't be able to work. This is definitely. And it could be very, very nice if lots of documents could be made electronically. And additionally, if these documents could be in PDF, if they are not in JPG, like a picture format, but in PDF, but this PDF could be made in good way with text layer, not just a picture, okay? So I think these are two main barriers.
So thank you for going over those barriers. That's actually a great segue into this next question. And thank you for writing that message privately for the person who's joining us live. I appreciate that. That's actually a good segue into this next question here. So how can an organization communicate a desire for inclusion and inspire a sense of belonging in employees with low vision?
Does it mean, is it about the accessibility or is it about something else?
I would probably, I mean, if this person is on the call, please let us know what you meant by your question. But I would interpret it for probably on both ends. So, how can they feel, appreciated and part of the team, and truly inclusive, and then how maybe if they are experiencing the product, how can that be, more inclusive as well? So maybe you can talk about it from both sides.
Well, actually, I'll be talking from both sides. Uh, just a second. Excuse me. Excuse
No
me.
worries.
So,
No worries.
well, I'm trying to make my, house people be more quiet.
It's hard. It's hard. What I love is when I see like cats walking across the screen or kids coming in saying it's time for lunch. So don't worry. We're in this
Unfortunately, there
together.
is no cat. I would prefer if there could be a cat. Anyway, sometimes people with low vision, they have they bring bad reputation to the company. For instance, if they come to the company, they start to request too much. For instance, there were some cases at the clinics, and the massage therapist came to the state clinic and said, okay, I need a special place for lunch. I need an assistant that could pour the tea from the teapot. I need some marks, so I will be able to go straight ahead without without cane. So I'll be just having some the kind of vertical bar or something layer stripe on the floor. And actually, well, this is bad because the managers of organization would think, oh God, we don't need such people because they ask too much. And now they ask for this, and then they'll be asking for, excuse me, bringing them to the toilet or something that. And they will just display it to, you spread it to all the people who are blind, unfortunately. And this is a real problem for it is a big problem because some clinics don't hire massage therapists after such accidents. People should be prepared and people should be rehabilitated if they want to work among their sighted colleagues and they don't want to differ and they don't want to feel like they are always undertaken, they are always under protection or something. But on the other hand, companies shouldn't be very suspicious, people at the companies. So they shouldn't say, oh, this person won't be able to work, this person won't be able to do this, or don't do that. If the person came to the interview, it could be better to ask straight ahead. For instance, how do you use the computer? Because you can understand, you can, the main idea is that, for instance, if I am not matching to this job, if I don't feel that I'll be able to work at this workplace, I won't simply apply to this vacancy. This is it. But if I applied, I at least I know how I'm going to manage my job. Do you agree?
Yes, yes. I love that you are highlighting that and also just bringing the injustice, I would say, that happens just from, not having to, or maybe not being educated. Let's say someone from who is hiring. This actually is a good segue into the next question. Someone who might be hiring a candidate who has vision loss, they might not be educated on how to do that properly, what questions to ask, how to make sure they're onboarding them in the correct
Excuse me for
manner.
interrupting. I
Yeah.
just wanted to continue with one thing
Yeah.
that could actually go out of this question.
Hmm.
Uh, well, I would suggest maybe it's mm, uh, too bold or too, I don't know, but there should be the kind of course, no matter if the company is going to hire a person with disability, with vision loss, or with any other disabilities, but this person should go, any HR department should have special training for them uh, in how to communicate, how it's called disability awareness training. And we lead these disability awareness training at Perspectiva, at our organization DPO that I'm going to leave. And there are specially created trainings, and I was even leading one training for Citibank, for Citibank. And it was in English, and I'm really happy that I do have a result. Citibank in Russia started to hire, at least for 1 year internship, people with disabilities. Well, and dive, I'm diving too deep into that because this is my professional topic, and you
No,
know,
no, it's not. You're not diving too deep. I love diving deep, first of all. And I don't think what you said is too bold. I think that that is actually a great piece of advice that everyone should go through disability awareness training, so that, we can be better prepared, working with inclusive within an inclusive environment. So I'm assuming that this next question, I'm not sure if people are here on the line. I want to know that this is your question, or if not, so that we can dive in deeper. As you see, we love to dive deep here. So feel free to hop off mute, or write in the chat box and let me know. But let's talk about the interview process, for example. Let's assume that, let's maybe take it from both perspectives. One person has taken this, disability awareness course, and the other person has not. What can companies do to make sure people with disabilities feel welcome during the application, hiring, and onboarding process? You can speak to any part of the interview process as well, but how can people be empowered to make sure that, there are no biases coming in? People are asking, the questions that need to be asked that, are appropriate, and that can help everyone function together. What would you say to that?
well, first, the main thing is that the website for application should be accessible, because unfortunately recruiting portals, websites in Russia are hardly accessible. I mean, I can do that, I can fill out the CV, but it takes a long time, unfortunately, because too much graphics on the website. It's too much different things that shouldn't be there. And sometimes, people care too much about design. But now, for instance, at VTB, we care about design, but together with accessibility. Anyway, I know that not every company has a special person who could evaluate the website. Yes, I know about that. I take it into the consideration. But generally, for instance, if the person came to the interview, first, the recruiter shouldn't be ignorant, shouldn't put herself or himself too high above the person who has low vision. Again, if the person came to your office, it means that he or she is responsible for his actions. And this person knows what he wants in life and knows where he came, etc., etc. And it surely lots of things depend on the person, because if the person came with dirty hair, with dirty clothes or something, it might happen, unfortunately. Or he or she came with her parents, it brings him down, unfortunately. So the person should be independent. The person should be twice as representative as his sighted peer or concurrent or whatever, because there'll be too much evaluating twice as much, evaluating and twice as much pay attention to the details. And the recruiter shouldn't be scared. And for instance, I don't know, just some simple rules. You just have to say, okay, here's the chair. Let me show you the chair. Just take the hand and put the actually where the chair is, and this is it. And there could be some situations that could be avoided. For instance, some recruiters have to ask for filling out the questionnaire during the interview process. It happens. Well, he could simply assist, or there should be a person that could help, and not saying, "Oh, you cannot fill out the form. Okay, bye bye." It's not the approach. So the recruiter should respect every person. And what if, for instance, the deaf person came? So it is the same. If you see the deaf person, you shouldn't pay the attention to this fact and try to either write on paper, just to exchange some notes, some sentences, or just say something, not loudly, but say something looking straight at the person, because lots of people read lips perfectly, and if even though if you don't know sign language, you can communicate with potential employee quite well. So people just have to trust and should be attentive, even though if they didn't go through any special trainings or rules, they should be like intuitive. They should follow their intuition and not to be afraid to hurt. This is a terrible thing that, when people don't know how to ask about something and how to say something, they are scared to hurt the person. Thanks to God, there are lots of materials, on TV, in the internet, different infographics, etc., etc. So people are quite educated, but still, some barriers exist, and people think that we are different. We are from another planet, unfortunately. So again, there should be the kind of global level for for recruiters to be prepared. Maybe each company should get something from the state, or from, there should be business networks created. But I think this is the topic for our further question.
Yes, yes. I know that there's so many barriers, and so I love that you're highlighting, how to make it, the application and interview process more successful. So let's assume this person is hired and they are now going through their training and onboarding. What are some things you can uh, suggest to the employer to make sure that the onboarding process for the new hire, is flowing? So how often should folks check in? Are there any particular ways that you would suggest checking in with someone with a disability, et
Mhm.
cetera?
So I've seen different models throughout my work, actually. For instance, there is a company. The company is PNG, and they have a program that's called Reach. Unfortunately, there were not any blind or low vision people hired there, but there was a person who is always with them during their 1.5 year program. I think it is too much. I mean, they should try to learn how to rule their situation themselves. But talking about blind and visually impaired people, the most important thing is materials. This is very important, and we talked about it earlier. The second thing is actually moving around, because lots of people try to use white cane, better or worse, and they actually have to, well, as I can see it, the way, for instance, there is a special HR or whatever, and once in, let's say, in a week, for the first, during the first month, this person can talk to this blind individual and ask if you're all right, if you need any help. But the most important thing is that his peers or colleagues or HR should help him to navigate, to show him where the kitchen is, where the toilet is, where the most important rooms are, for instance, meeting rooms, or like CEO office or something. So the person will be able to learn. And not every person would learn from the first time. They need some practice. So I'm talking about myself as well. And if, for instance, people could ask people could help. People could be interested if they could help to this person. And the person, if the person says yes, please help me, okay, just help. If people say, the person says no, thank you, just leave him or her alone. This is it, because some people try to enforce the situation, unfortunately. So the golden rule is help only in case if the person needs help, if the person asks for it. So these are, I think these are two key points for blind and low vision people.
Thank you so much for that response. I actually have another private question here. What are the best practices for outreach in the low vision community? We are a municipality. We would like to ensure that we reach our whole community.
What do you mean by the best practices? Best practices in what? In actually in engaging in what kind of activities?
So for that person who's written me privately, go ahead and respond there. I'll keep you anonymous, but just so that Oksana can dive in on your question there. Best practices, I would interpret that just, are there any steps, to follow up steps to make sure that you're, reaching a community and not just saying that you're practicing what you preach, let's say, and you're actually bringing people to the table instead of saying maybe we want to be more inclusive, but you're not really doing the outreach to its fullest extent with this particular community. Please correct me if I'm wrong, that person who's written me privately, but I will look out for your message.
Yeah,
But in the
I would
meantime,
like
Oksana,
to.
Mariella, this is
yes,
Chandra. I'm actually the
go.
person asking the question. Oksana, thank you so
Hi.
much for showing up today. We're a municipality, and what happens is often we may send out information via flyers, like you've just discussed about having text layers and PDFs. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen very often. And so we want to make sure that we are reaching our entire community, not necessarily just those who do not have low vision. So really asking questions of, if you lived in my community, what would be the best way for me to contact you to let you know that there would be a public meeting, or
Mm-hmm.
something that's not in I think more of a emergency situation. We're clearly
Mm-hmm.
seeing with COVID, there's a lot happening. But outside of that, how would I better reach and then support a community with people with low vision?
Well, I should thank you so much. I got you. For instance, there'll be a meeting and you want to reach out the low vision community. There are some organizations, for instance, here in Russia, they are local on a local level, and the information comes to these organizations like from the municipality and the most actually the first step could be a phone call, the reaching out the person who is the CEO, let's say, of this organization, of local chapter of, this is the analog of NFB, but it's called All Russian Society for the Blind. But if you want to reach a concrete person, and okay, I'm not marked anywhere in maybe actually no, I'm marked in social services in Moscow, and sometimes they could make a phone call to me saying, okay, because they rather know my telephone, they rather could find my telephone number than like my email. But if the municipality has email, it could be like an email with body of email and the document in Microsoft Word format. Because if you say, like, as you noticed correctly, PDF is good, is great, but it should be constructed the right way. This is very important. So the phone call or Microsoft Word document or coming, I don't know, coming to the organization if you want to reach many people. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely did. We were actually looking at that, and one of the things that you just brought up was that having a phone tree through that organization would be a great way to make sure that we really do make a lot of these things more accessible. So thank you so very much for answering that. And if you give any more information about your training that you gave for City, that'd be awesome too. Thanks.
Right now, are you talking about like the information about training right away? Yeah,
Well,
here, live.
well, not right now because I know there's some other questions, but maybe if there was a way that we could talk about it later, be it
Absolutely, absolutely.
great,
And one
great.
more one more advice, just for the municipality. Actually, I was working with Swedish organization that was working for municipalities, and this municipality worked with and works with people with disabilities. Actually, there, but it was about culture. It was about like theaters or studios or something. What I would advise, if the municipality simply hires, maybe for a project part-time job, a person with disability, because nothing for us without us are just not just simple words. They are just not words. These are real statements, and it brings a lot because we are experts. And for instance, I'm working for the bank, and I'm so proud that we are included in the process, and teams that are responsible for developing features for mobile app, they come to us and they ask how we how could we do better. They ask for our advice. And I heard one statement from the person. She works for one international company. They just started working in Russia. They just try to approach the inclusion, but it's the process is very slow in their company. And they say, oh gosh, are we going to hire it's a shame that we are going to hire a person just for her or his disability. And I said, why disability? You are hiring a person for his or her expertise. That's it. It's much more different, because not every person who has disability could have an expertise. That's it. So this is my main message right now.
That's such a beautiful message. Thank you so much for taking time to make sure you put that in there. I love that. We might even have some time for you to share more about this training as well. I would love for folks who are listening in, and especially since we've got some live callers who are curious, we'll make sure to cover that before we close today. But we've got a little over 10 minutes. I just want everyone on the line to know. I told you all that time would fly by.
It
Oksana, you've
really
been
flies.
yeah, it really flies. You've been amazing so far. So let's keep the energy moving. Let's bring this question out to a more, I love that you're also highlighting the global challenge that we're having with inclusivity, and especially with low vision employees and things like that. So let's move this conversation more to how we can, build our community to be more prepared to be inclusive. So this question reads, could you share some advice on raising kids with disabilities? One of my nieces is hearing impaired, and we as a family want to make her feel empowered and not limited by her disability.
Yes, with pleasure. I was thinking about that, and I really would love to thank my parents for raising me the way I am now. Because actually, I've been blind since my birth. It happened, but anyway, I would say two key rules. The first one is independence. So parents shouldn't overprotect kids with disabilities. I was running with my friends, with my sighted friends, and if I broke my knees, okay, that's fine. Yeah. If I broke my clothing, that's fine too. And I had everything. I had a chance to do absolutely everything that people had. I was playing with guys, I was running around, I was swimming, etc., etc. And a very important thing is communication with non-disabled people. And actually, people shouldn't surely we all sometimes, unfortunately, I should admit that we all are ashamed of our disabilities sometimes. It could be more or less, it's hard to accept, but parents should help to accept, but not to be inside of the disability. So to bring to different events with non-disabled people. Inclusive education is a very complicated topic, and I would prefer not to talk about that right now, because it's a really big topic, and I got the idea. So maybe you would love to invite me one day and we could talk about that, because the inclusive education is not for every type of disabilities. Anyway, parents should be objective to their kids, and they should help them. They should direct them to the good path, and they shouldn't limit them. Just be as friends, as much as they can, to be friends with their kids. I think these are rules: independence, not overprotection, and help, and communication with non-disabled.
Wow, thank you Thank you so much. And you have my vote for coming back to speak about inclusive education. I definitely know that we have a lot of room there to grow. So I would love to, and it's definitely a really, big cookie to crack open. So we don't have enough time in the next 9 minutes for you to really give us your honest feedback there. So I would love to hear more about, your perspective there. And actually, since we're speaking about, kids and how to, raise them as a community, if you could share some advice with your younger self, what would that be? This question was also submitted before the chat, and I love this question. So if you could share some advice with your
I
younger
love
self,
this
what would that be?
question. I love this question. Thank you so much. And I will be absolutely honest with you. I would advise myself to enter the university at the United States. After I finished my study for this international program at our book school for the blind, I had a quite good TOEFL result, test of English as foreign language. And I didn't really think at that time. I was 18. I wasn't too adult, I would say, and I didn't have such dream. But now I say that I should try. I should have tried to do that. I should enter the university at the United States, and also, well, maybe to still to graduate from music school because I am playing the piano, but too bad. It would be better at least to finish music school because I was playing for 3.5 years and it was half of musical school course. And well, I think these are two advices, but life went a different way. And I have some things to be proud of. For instance, I have a son, and he is a university student. He is studying public relations and marketing, and well, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of all that efforts that I brought to raise him, and I'm proud of that I became, I have too much work experience, but still some advices should be done. When you are 19 is not the same when you are 40.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm happy to hear that you can, highlight how you've grown and developed your career, and not just your career, but your personal life as well. And I would just like for you to speak a little to, the present times of, this global pandemic that we're experiencing all over the world. Do you have any encouraging words to share with, people who are either looking for work and they have vision loss, or they are currently, in a position and maybe they are thinking of career pivoting. I know that we speak a lot about career pivoting, which you have done a couple of times in your life successfully. So that's
Yes.
really beautiful to see. Any food for thought for those folks who are currently during these crazy times, as we are experiencing this global pandemic? Anything that you'd like to say to them?
Don't be afraid to try something new. Even though sometimes it seems very scary, believe me, life goes the way it goes. And if you have this chance, don't leave it and don't let it go far from you. Don't let yourself miss this chance. Surely you should think, if for instance, if you have a suggestion, some any kind of suggestion, you could just take a piece of paper or just to share your mind into pieces, and you could write positive arguments from one side and negative arguments from another side. And it could be absolutely wonderful topic to to think of, to contemplate, and to have a right decision. And don't listen too much to advices of people, because if people say you won't be able to do that, it doesn't mean that you are not able to do that. And the pandemic will be over, and I hope to see you all somewhere someday. I mean, maybe we'll have any offline meeting anytime. Unfortunately, the situation is not good so far. Borders are still closed, and we have some challenges in getting visa, for instance, to the United States. But anyway, I believe in best. I believe that everything will be fine. Just live your life as full in as full manner as you can. This is my
Yes,
final
I love
advice.
that. I love that. Thank you so much. So we've got about 4 minutes left. I want to give you some time to speak to what Chandra was asking you about the training that you offer, and how we can support you, how we can find you when we finish this conversation. Are you on any social networks? Do you have a
Yes,
email
yes,
or
I am
okay?
on social network, and I could spell, for instance, my Instagram. It would be the shortest way to find me. It's OXYLAND, Oxyland 101, because Facebook, it could be quite harder to find. But anyway, I could write my contacts later on to Paloma or into you, Marielle, as well. So I won't be lost, believe me. And talking about training, this training tells about medical and social approach to the disability. We talk about etiquette. We talk about the terminology, and it's a bit different. A bit different here, in Russian and in English. And it was very interesting because we had mixed group, and I was explaining first in Russian, and then I was explaining in English. And then we watch video and we discuss if the person without disabilities or persons without disabilities acted the right way or the wrong way, and what is right and what is wrong. And we could make any interactive games. Actually, we could make this training flexible. And for instance, I was making a training, especially not for city, but for another organization, for the university, for communicating particularly with blind people. So, well, it is very short, I know that, but actually, this is it. It is about an hour and a half. It could be an hour and a half.
Okay. And how can folks, if they're interested, how can they should they write to you on Instagram or find you there and contact you to find out?
Yeah, we could at least people could add to my to subscribe, to send me requests to my Instagram, and we won't get lost. And then we could continue our communication either via Facebook, WhatsApp, I don't know, email, whatever. So no problem with that. I am open, and I'm ready to communicate, to develop, to help to develop you and to develop myself. And thank you
Beautiful.
so much for
Yes.
coming, for sharing your time. And I hope you were not bored. And excuse me if I was sometimes unclear, maybe, but I'm trying to say too much. And English is not my native language, and I'm trying to do my job as good as I can.
Oh, Oksana, no need to apologize. This has been such a great conversation to get your experience, to get your journey, your feedback, your encouragement. I for sure understand everything that you said very clearly. The good thing is folks can rewatch this video if they, want to rewatch and take notes or look up some of the things that you've mentioned. If you are live here, I just want to remind you all that you will get a rewatch email with the link to connect with Oksana, so that you can write to her and learn more about her, what she's working on, and support the great work that she's doing. We've got folks writing in the chat box saying thank you so much, that this was a great session. So Oksana, I just want to say again, thank you so much. Thank you, Power to Fly. Thank you everyone who's joined this conversation, and we'll see you all on the next chat.
Thank you so much, and have a